What is going on, guys? How y'all doing on this Thursday evening? This is the Club of the Man 1993. Exhausted, but I am here. I actually took a little bit of a nap before, and yeah, I got tired. But I'm here live to catch up and review last night's Wednesday night special from AEW Dynamite. AEW Blood and Guts. Blood and Guts. 2021. Again, it took place last night, May 5th, 2021, at Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. It was the first ever Blood and Guts match in AEW history, as we were supposed to get one last year between the Inner Circle and the Elite, but then the pandemic canceled that, and we ended up getting them in a stadium stampede fight at Double or Nothing, which was excellent. Maybe a little bit better than this we got from Blood and Guts. But, so, let's talk about this show. Overall, I thought it was a fun show. I enjoyed just about everything we had on this show. The main event, I thought was good. We'll talk about that finish, though. Because, as you saw from the live reactions, if you watched the live reactions last night with myself and Joe, I had very mixed feelings about that finish. It left me wanting more. But we'll talk about it when we get to it. We'll talk about the rest of the things first. We had our first official match also announced for Double or Nothing, which is taking place in just a couple weeks, May 30th, 2021. I'll be watching that with my friends, Joe Miller and Daniel Gaiza at Dan's house with a nice bonfire. That's going to be a lot of fun on Memorial Day weekend. And we also were told that we're going to have a number one contenders match next week also to determine the number one contender for Kenny Omega's AEW World Championship. Of course, we also saw a glimpse here and there of Kenny Omega with all the rest of his belts, which they should be showing at times because, obviously they've made him a quadruple champ for a reason. Let's talk about the show. Again, there was a lot of good things that happened at Blood and Guts. Let's check the live chat though first. We got Mark and Tyler. What's up, guys? I'm not too bad, Mark. Kind of tired, but I'm good. How about yourself? There are a lot of people saying the ending to Blood and Guts was lame. Again, like I said, we will talk about that finish at the end. What's up, Tyler? Tyler thought it was stupid, and Mark says there's a lot of championship matches next week. There's definitely 2 of them I can think of right now. Might have been more, I couldn't remember, but we'll talk about that, of course, when we get there. Or matches with championship implications, though. We'll talk about those, though. But first, let's start off with the show. We opened up with the match between Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus Kenny Omega and Michael Nakazawa, or Nakazawa, whatever his name is. Before the match started, Don Callis came out saying that Kenny Omega was not able to attend tonight's show. And at first, basically, it was going to be Moxley and Kingston versus Nakazawa 2-on-1. During the entrance, though, for Kingston and Omega, Kingston and Moxley, Omega actually attacked them in the entranceway, playing a little bit of the mind games and trying to get the upper hand. They would have the tag match. Unfortunately, Kenny would make the escape, and eventually, though, Moxley and Kingston would get the victory by pinning Nakazawa. And of course, afterwards, we would see the Young Bucks kind of make their way out. They're having a tag match next week, which they're going to be facing the winner from this week's show in a triple threat, which we'll get to in a second. I still think they're teasing the heck. We're going to see a match with Moxley and Kingston versus the Young Bucks at Double or Nothing. I kind of hope they do give the titles to Moxley and Kingston, especially for Eddie's sake. Eddie, I think needs it. I think Eddie has had so many opportunities already, putting himself in a position because of his talents. He needs to be rewarded, and giving him and Moxley a run with the tag titles all for that. So if that match would happen, I'm kind of hoping we do see Moxley and Kingston win those tag titles. But a good way to start off the show with that. They were attacked also by the Good Brothers also after the match and the rest of the Elite Brothers. Like I said, we're most likely going to be getting that match at Double or Nothing. The next match we had, Cody Rhodes with Arn Anderson versus QT Marshall and his Factory. Not a bad match. Again, I'm still going to be real. I don't know if it's because there's just so many stables in AEW or whatnot. Like I said, I'm not like jumping out of my chair right now for QT Marshall. Like I said, he just still feels like a 4-string or like a back end low carder getting a little bit of a singles push since they turned him heel and split him up from Dustin Rhodes. Again, I don't know if that's just the reason why, but like I said, I'm just not feeling taking QT Marshall too seriously right now with what they're doing with him. Like I said, I just don't feel like they're going to make him as a super major player at this time. Like I don't see him really winning any championships or anything else, but he could be a decent asset. But he taps out to Cody Rhodes submission, figure 4 leg lock. Afterwards, though, we see Anthony Ogogo attack Cody Rhodes and drapes a Union Jack over him. Again, I'm very interested still in Anthony Ogogo. Again, they're giving like this kind of like a knockout gimmick basically, and I'm actually very intrigued because it's definitely something different. So, but I'm probably a little more interested than QT Marshall, but we'll see what they do with it going forward with that. Speaking of a little bit of a newbie in some ways, I actually really liked also the segment they had with Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. I said recently, like, Scorpio Sky at first turning heel for me was like a star that we were actually behind a single star going heel just for something different. At first I was just like, it's like, for a few weeks I've been just like, it's just like, it's fine, but it began to feel a little bit unnecessary and that the fire wasn't really being lit with QT Marshall as a heel. This promo, though, I felt was. I thought him and Ethan Page cut a pretty good promo. I mean, Ethan kind of, talked more about his history with Darby Allin. And then Darby Allin would come after them try to get revenge on them for attacking Sting. Well, Scorpio Sky got the best of Sting last week, hurting him. Scorpio Sky even took some shots at Sting, calling him by his real name, Steve. But Darby, tried to take them out 2-on-1. Even a nice coffin drop off of like a scaffold he did. Unfortunately, though, Page and Sky would get the best of him, and Darby took this really nasty bump as they threw him down the stairs. They threw him down concrete stairs, and Darby just took it like a man. Like there was nothing really protecting him. He just tumbled. He tumbled down the stairs and just took it like it was a real bump. Like he for real fell down the stairs. It was pretty sick. And off of that, it kind of made me a little bit more of a fan also of Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. So I don't know if they're setting up for some sort of like a tag match at Double or Nothing with Darby, Sting, Sky, and Page. Maybe, I don't know. But we'll see. But that bump, oh boy, that was pretty good. And to me, I felt like it really helped me get like a little more, take Sky and Page a little more seriously as well. So that was good. I'll give that's some pretty good credit. That was definitely one of my more favorite moments of the show. I gotta say, is that bump and definitely the promo by Sky and Ethan Page. Dr. Britt Baker would then defeat a jobber by submission with the lockjaw, and it was then announced that Dr. Britt Baker will get her AEW Women's World Championship shot against Hikaru Shida at Double or Nothing. Please put the title on Britt. please. Again, Karu Shida has done the best she can with her year-long run. It's time to let this show be ran by Britt Baker. That women's division needs to be ran by Britt Baker. Like I said before, it was time to take the cuffs off Kenny Omega and let him be Kenny Omega, and he's killing it. The Young Bucks have done good with getting those tag titles. Now it's time to take the cuffs off and let Britt Baker run the division she was due to run the moment she walked into the door for AEW. Put that belt on her at Double or Nothing. And then we have a triple threat match where the winner would face the Young Bucks next week for the AEW World Tag Titles. And SCU won. They defeated Jurassic Express, the Varsity Blondes, and the Acclaim. I'm sorry, it was a fatal 4-way. I forgot to include the Acclaim in the tags. SCU wins. They're still continuing the storyline on where SCU is going to disband as a tag team the next time they lose. So the pressure is really on. And that match is next week. And I think that may be where they disband SCU. We'll see what happens. But a good tag match there as well. Then we have also this really good promo here. So it was hyped up. There was a major announcement going to be involving the challenger for Kenny Omega at AEW Double or Nothing 2021. As Tony Schiavone is interviewing him as they're setting up the cage for Blood and Guts, he's being told that the top 2 ranked will have a match next week, and the winner will face Kenny Omega at Double or Nothing. And it's going to be intertwining with the rivalry going on between Best Friends and Death Triangle, as Pac, who is actually number 1 ranked right now, will take on Orange Cassidy. Now, this promo that Kenny cut afterwards was pretty good. Kenny was basically saying he's expecting it to be Pac, and he knows he has a history with Pac. And Pac has a win or 2 over Kenny Omega, including, I believe, in the Iron Man match from not this past February, but February before, the Go Home edition before Revolution 2020. So he basically cut a promo going all in and just showing no confidence for Orange Cassidy. Cassidy came out, basically stared down Omega, and just took Omega, just ripping him to shreds. He even took off the shades and put him on Michael Nakazawa. Basically, he has no faith at all, and he thinks it'll be just a walk in the park if Orange Cassidy would be the one to face him. Which makes me believe that Orange Cassidy is probably winning this, and he's probably going to be the one to face Kenny Omega at Double or Nothing. It could be a good match, but I'll be real and feel like this feels a little bit like it's a little bit of like a filler. I mean, it just feels way too obvious that Kenny's going to retain whether he faces Pac or Orange Cassidy. But I have the confidence that AEW is at least going to put on a really good match. But I'm thinking it's probably going to be Orange Cassidy. Again, why would they have him basically, act like, Pac is, the obvious choice to face him, but then we're having, him tear Orange Cassidy to shreds. There's no secret that to my mind that they're probably going to have Orange Cassidy defeat Pac next week. I guess they probably would do a rubber match at some point though, because it is the second one-on-one match between Pac and Orange Cassidy, because they're basically continuing the storyline that they were having before the pandemic with Best Friends and Death Triangle. So obviously I thought there'd be a rubber match at some point, but it still should be good. Like I said, it feels like a little bit like a filler match in some ways because, again, I think they're saving Omega and Hangman for All Out. But even though it's filler, it'll still be good. I was kind of hoping we would have gotten Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega, though. But this is still going to be intriguing. So we have that announcement. And then we also have a really good promo by Miro, who is going to be challenging Darby Allin next week for the TNT Championship as well, which would be very interesting for sure. And I actually kind of hope Miro wins. Again, I love Darby, but like I said, as soon as you set Miro free from Kip Sabian, just push him. Push him, let him go. And I think the best way to start his monster push as a single star would definitely for him to win the TNT Championship. So I am kind of hoping it happens. Like, I love Darby, but I am kind of rooting for Miro next week. And he even said if Darby is not able to show up because of his injuries, what happened earlier, he kind of pushed the idea of a forfeit on him. So we'll see. Like I said, fingers crossed, then they actually start pushing Miro, a little bit better. Because like I said, this thing with him and Kip was fine to get him started. But as soon as, again, the wedding was over, I was just like, okay, let's move on. Let's move on Miro to something else. And it looks like that they're going to be doing that. So, we'll see what they do. So, we have that match. Most likely next week's main event happening. Darby Allin versus Miro for the TNT Championship next week. Then we have the main event. Let's talk about the main event. The Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle in the first ever AEW Blood and Guts match. Of course, as we all know, the Inner Circle is led by Chris Jericho, with Santana and Ortiz of Pride and Powerful, Jake Hager, and the sexy Spanish god, Sammy Guevara, taking on the Pinnacles, MJF, FTRs, Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, Wardlow, and Shawn Spears. And of course, in their corner is their manager, Tully Blanchard. Okay, so throughout the match, as you guys saw in a lot of reactions, though, I was still a little bit confused with the rules. I thought at first everyone was going to be eliminated, and it was going to be by either submission or surrender. I didn't realize until, towards the end that it was just one person. It was just basically, they were basically doing like the old school rules for a War Games match. Except there's literally a roof on the cage, and again, the team wins after one person submits or surrenders. Basically, a winner couldn't take place until everyone got inside of the cage. So, the match was still very good. It was definitely one of the best matches of the year. I wouldn't say it was the match of the year. There was a couple little botches, a couple little trips in the match, but to me, it wasn't those botches that completely took me out of the match. It's like, it happens. Shit happens. I'm not gonna, hold that on my head unless it, literally, just, completely throws it off. Like, the barbed wire, the finish to the barbed wire death match with that very, wet fart-looking explosion. The match, I believe, started off with Sammy Guevara and Dax Harwood. Both members of FTR, I think, was the ones who definitely, got busted open the most. Again, they really did go with the term blood in this match. I believe the order went Sammy Guevara and Dax Harwood started the match. And then Shawn Spears came in with his chair, because he was the chairman. He was pretty good in this match, I gotta say, Spears. And then I think it was Ortiz, then Wheeler, then Santana, then Wardlow, who was both like a monster in this match. He definitely took people out. He definitely was kind of manhandling people by himself. Jake Hager, and then MJF and Chris Jericho finish it off. Again, it was very, strong stuff. It was a strong, fight throughout the match. Here's one thing I will say also kind of hurt this match also. I feel like this match should have just been saved for a pay-per-view. Again, like I said, with this match, and from Reigns and Bryan doing live reactions, it's very hard to stay in tune with it with commercial breaks. At least this match was shown picture in picture. So it didn't take me out too much, but when you're still showing commercials, you kind of lose focus a little bit still. So I would have rather have had this match take place on pay-per-view. Plus, also, it wouldn't feel so limited because of the time. The finish came. During the last commercial break, Tully Blanchard had attacked the referee, it looked like, outside, and got the key and pulled it out. MJF climbed the scaffold to the top. Chris Jericho came out and he followed. And I guess they didn't pay much attention to them. Like, at this point, the action just stayed above the cage. It looks like some people, though, got out of the cage as they continued the brawl. And we get to the finish. I'm thinking they're going to pull off some crazy-ass stunt. I'm like, okay, think of it a little more outside the box. This is basically a War Games type match. We've gotten how many people being thrown off of the top of a cage through a table. There is literally a roof on this cage. I'm thinking they're going to chance pulling off a Mick Foley and Undertaker. I thought somebody was going through that roof and falling down onto the mat, into the rings inside the cage. That's what I thought was going to happen. I'm like, what? Again, the expectations I had for a finish for this match was kind of what I was hoping for the finish between Jericho and MJF at Full Gear. To me, it was like, okay, it's simple, it works, but I expected something more. Like, if there's one thing I will nitpick MJF about, again, I think the best swerve they've done to give him a lot of heel heat, to me, like the best swerve he pulled off, was still when he turned on the inner circle and formed the Pinnacle. That was like, oh my gosh! Like, when he faced Cody Rhodes at Revolution 2020, and then how he faced Jericho at Double or Nothing, my thing was again, like, it's like, I thought there were going to be some big, like, oh my gosh, he stooped that low. And then for Cody Rhodes, he just used the diamond ring, the diamond ring to take out Cody Rhodes. I was just like, it works, but it was like, it could have been something a little more, a little bit more, like, oh my gosh, that guy's an asshole, like, whatever. Like, something that like, made me, like, pop a little bit more, like stun me. And same thing with his match with Jericho at Double or Nothing. I thought, okay, MJF's going to do whatever he can to, impress Jericho. To me, it felt like it was just too simple. We get to this finish. MJF is threatening to throw Jericho off the top of the cell. I'm just like, don't actually throw him actually off the cell. Throw him through the cell and have him crash into the ring. Like, I get it. I don't know why I was setting my expectations so high for that, but I'm just like, literally, like, do something that's doesn't feel like, it's ordinary and like playing it safe. Before MJF throws Jericho off the cell, the Inner Circle surrender. They surrender to save Chris Jericho's life. And I was like, huh? I don't know. Like, I'm not saying it was horrible. To me, it just felt like, I don't know, I just felt like there was more to this. Like, it left me wanting more, which, is usually good. But to me, it was just like, is that really the best you could have come up with for MJF to basically, push the Inner Circle past their breaking point to save, Jericho? Have that moment of, like, them, like, uniting. But to me, it was like, they've done that so many times with him just throwing it off the top of the cage. But then in the end, MJF still throws Jericho off the cage, and he goes through, it was supposedly he went through a pile of steel. Instead, when he crashed through, it was so obvious that there was a bunch of crash pads underneath that. And I was just like, I don't know. It was a great match, don't get me wrong. But that finish just felt a little bit flat. Like, I expected better. Or, my other thing is, too, is if the Inner Circle basically surrendered to have MJF avoid throwing Jericho off the cage, then why did they basically just let him still do it? Like, if I was MJF, I would have thrown him off the other side of the cage, or thrown him through the cage and have him crash through the roof down to the ring, pull off a Mick Foley. I mean, no offense, but if Jericho can jump through off the cage and land into like a weird looking crash pad with a bunch of steel, I think he can survive going through to pulling off a Foley, maybe. Just my opinion. I don't know. Again, like I said, it was a great main event. The finish, though, didn't satisfy me completely. I'm just going to be real. The finish just didn't quite satisfy me. Like I said, with MJF and as talented as he is, I expected something a little bit more, like, grave. A little more, dangerous. A little more, like, something to really give him, heat for his comeuppance. And I feel like, it's like, I felt they could have just done a little bit better. They could have thought something a little bit more, vile, I thought. But as far as, of course, obviously somebody from the Inner Circle eventually is going to get their comeuppance on MJF. And, the fact that we've, Chris Jericho defeating MJF, getting his revenge, would be fine. I think the person in the Inner Circle who should be the one basically to get the redemption for the Inner Circle still to me is Sammy Guevara. I think if you want to establish another big baby face in AEW, I feel like Sammy Guevara is the freshest young upstart they can go with to, establish as a big baby face. Like, we could see maybe a Double or Nothing Guevara and MJF. Maybe. I mean, I don't know if that's too soon for someone to be pinning MJF. It might be, but at some point, I think if anyone's going to get a win over MJF next, it should be Sammy Guevara in the Inner Circle. Or, as I keep saying, I still think they need to circle back to the feud with MJF and Cody Rhodes. Like I said, it's just another gripe I have with AEW. It's like they do one match in these feuds, for most of them, and they just drop it afterwards. It's like, keep the feel still there. Like, again, that Cody Rhodes and MJF feud should not have been just a one-off feud. Like, there should still be more history digging into that, I feel, in my opinion. But I know I kind of nitpicked that a little bit, but this was still a great show. Again, I'm excited for Double or Nothing. I'm excited next week to see, Pac and Orange Cassidy, most likely Cassidy winning, Young Bucks and SCU, and then Darby Allin and Miro for the TNT Championship. And again, I'm also excited to see that Britt Baker is finally getting her shot at the AEW Women's World Championship at Double or Nothing, where they need to capitalize and put that belt on Britt. It is time. And guys, that's my review of Blood and Guts. I gave it an A-. A little high, I'd probably say. A lot of people might say, but I still enjoyed this show. I really enjoyed this episode of Dynamite. Well, this special episode of Dynamite, Blood and Guts. Live chat. Tyler was saying how AEW is turning to WCW with the factions. Like I said, there is definitely a little too many factions. I agree. And they both gave, Mark and Tyler both gave Blood and Guts a B. Okay, not as high as me, which I kind of expected, but, I still enjoyed the show a lot. And I'm going to check out here, guys. I have one more video. It's not wrestling related. Going to come your way tonight, and I'll upload shortly, but I got to get ready. I'm going to be spending time with my girlfriend's this weekend. Her birthday was last weekend. We didn't get to spend much time together. So I'll review SmackDown at some point on Sunday. And that's going to do it, guys. Again, those are my thoughts on AEW Blood and Guts, A- show. Again, stay tuned for me to, not going to be live, but I'm going to record another video I'm going to post here shortly. At some point soon also, I should probably do NXT UK again. But maybe after this week again. May is just been a busy month for me so far, and I'm pretty booked most weekends in May. So, that is what it is. So, yeah, guys, that's going to do it. What are your thoughts on Blood and Guts? Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Be sure as always to slap a like on the video and subscribe for more content on my channel. And follow me on Twitter at DemandAir183. Until then, guys, I'm checking out. I'll see you all later. Have a great rest of your night. I'll see you guys sometime this weekend. Have a good weekend, guys. Catch y'all later. Peace out, everybody.